guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to start a new series that is on the Python programming language, and today we are going to create a simple RPS game using the Python, and also we are going to implement this RPS game using the PYGAME module. So we are going to implement in the GUI version also, but in this video first we'll see the basics. So for the basics we are going to do this entire application in the terminal basis, so you can play with your system using the terminal. And the next video we are going to implement the GUI with some interesting animation type. So if you are interested in learning, then do watch this video till the last, and if you like our channel, do subscribe to this channel and also click on the bell button so that you can receive the notifications of all the new videos from this channel. So now let's begin. So we have already created a new file. So if I show you the structure, we have a game module and we have a main.py file. You can name anything. So I've created a main.py. So now the first thing is we need to import random. So random is a built-in package that comes in with the Python module. That's a Python programming language. So we can just import random, and here you go. And now we have imported random. So in this video we are going to make use of class so that we can access all the elements and we can easily use it in the entire program, so that we can access it easily while passing from one function to another. So in that case we are going to make use of the OOPS concept, that is using classes and objects. So now we have created the random, where we have imported the random. So now it's time to create a class for the game. So you can create a class with any name, but I'm going to create a class with RPS Game, so it will be easy for me to understand. So now for this we are going to define the method called init. So these are the methods that we want to do, or if you want to initialize in the sense, if you are comparing to any other language, then you are simply saying constructors. So init method is just like constructors. So whenever you create an instance of a RPM game class, this init function will be called, and whatever you pass will be run. So now what we need to do is, if you see our readme.file, this I have created for our purpose, for understanding. So we are creating a class, and the class we are creating the init method. So in this, what we need to do, we need to create a player score and AI score. Here AI score refers to the computer. We are actually not going to develop an AI right now, but in the future video we are going to develop an AI for this also, which will be able to play on the base of learning how the player reacts. So now in this we are just using random function to get the value. So in the init method we are going to have the player score and AI score. Then we'll say the final point, that is what is the win point for the game, and then we can have the different selection options for the AI. So what the AI can choose, that is we have a rock, we have paper, and we have scissors. So we are going to make a list of it, and then we have a variable that can store the player and the AI selection, that is the player can choose either rock, paper or scissor, and even the AI can choose either rock, paper or scissor. And for that purpose we are going to do so. And now let's create a method. So we'll first create the points for the AI. So initially while the game starts, the points of both the player and the AI will be 0. So we'll just create self.p points is equal to 0. P points refers to player points and AI points refers to the points of the AI. So now along with that we want to have an options for the AI to select. So we'll name it as AI options itself, so it will be easy for our naming convention. So now it can take 3 values, that is it can take a rock, it can take a paper, and it can take a scissor. Okay, so in the RPS game you can either choose scissor, or you can either choose rock or paper. So it actually depends upon you. So now along with that we have to create a variable for holding the max point, that is a win point. So we'll name it as max points itself, and by default let's keep it as 5 for right now. Okay, so now we have kept the max points as 5. Along with that, as you can see, we want to have a variable that can store the player choice and the AI choice. So for that we are going to create AI choice self dot AI choice ch, is none. Initially the AI wouldn't have been selected anything, and even the player while he starts the game, he will not be selecting any value, so it will be none. So I have created the class instance because it will be easy for us while we call these values from the other function. So I'll explain you actually why I'm using the class instance, so you'll easily understand it. So now we have created the init method. So now what we can do is now we can mark this as completed. So if I mark this, you can see on the right hand side we have ticked it that we have completed, and we can even complete this. So now what we have is we have to create a method to start the game. So this is just a method where we are going to start the game. So what we can do is we can create a new method, and we can name it as start game. Sorry, it's start game. Okay, so now whenever you create a new function inside the class, the self will be automatically appended, that is created, so that you can access all the elements of this class. That is, you can access AI points with self.ai, that is p points with self.p points, and so on. So now inside this, what we want to do is we want to run this game until and unless any one of the winner is found. So we use a while loop to run again and again. So the winner is selected either when the AI points, that the points of the AI or the points of the player equals the max point. So we need to run a while loop until any of these condition matches. So the condition will be, we'll run a while loop until self dot AI points should be less than, it should not be equal to, it should be less than self dot max points. Okay, so along with that we want self dot player points as well. We want even the player to be less than self dot max points. So if both the condition met, that is the points of the AI and the points of the player are not equal to the max points, then we need to run this loop. So inside this loop, what we are going to do is, what we are going to do is we have to display the different sections, that is what are the selections the user can have. So we'll just print, so we can have a print statement over here as 1 for rock. Okay, so we'll just add it in the same line, 2 for paper, 3 for Caesar, and we'll have an additional option to print the scores of the both the player and the AI, and then we can have a quit option, that is a user can quit at any time. Okay, so now we are going to get the input. So now we'll say self dot player ch, that is we are going to take the input from the player. We'll say we take the input in the form of int. So input we'll say over here, input we have to please enter any one option. Okay, so the player need to enter any one of the option. So whenever he presses 1, it implies it's rock. Whenever he presses 2, it implies paper. So we'll elaborate this, please enter any one option number, so the user will be knowing what to enter exactly. So now along with that, what we can do is, so now what we have to do, so we have created different methods, then we need to get the value. So we have got the value and we have stored it in a variable, and we have to use a random choice to get selection of the AI as well. So now we want to get the selection of AI. So what we can do is we can have self dot aich, so that is selection. So from the random function we are going to get option called random dot choice. So from this we are going to pass the list, that is self of AI options. So from this, every time any out of these 3 values, any one value will be picked and will be stored in the AI underscore ch variable. So now as you can see over here we are getting the string variables, and over here we are getting the number variables. So now in order to test, we need to convert the number variables into the appropriate string. That is, if it is 1, it refers to rock. If it is 2, it refers to paper. If it is 3, it refers to Caesar. If it is 4, we need to check the score. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to define a new method. So that method will have a name called as player section. Okay, we will create a method called player section. So what this does is, so this will take the okay. So now the use of adding the class. So now if we wouldn't have used class, what we would have done is we would have defined everything outside. That is, this will be an entire global function, this will be an entire global function, and in order to pass one value from another, you need to make use of the parameters. So now in this we can pass any values that is defined over here without the use of any parameters. So that's the reason why we are using the class method over here. That's the OOP concept. So now what we can do is, for our simplicity, we'll name we'll create a new variable, and this variable will hold the value of the player choice. Okay, so now we need to test if what we are going to do is, if we are going to see if ch is equal to 1, that is, if it is equal to 1, then we are going to just return rock. Okay, so now if the user enters rock 1, then you are going to return rock. So in the same way, if ch is equal to 2, then we are going to return paper. And in the same way we are going to do for the entire all the values. So if it is 3, we are going to return Caesar. Yeah, good. So now comes the fourth part. So now the fourth part, the fourth value is for the displaying of the values, that is a score of the players. So what we can do is we can do if it is 4, we'll create a new variable, that is a new function that says checkpoints. So we have not created it, so we'll create it soon. So now what we need to do is we need to return none. Okay, we are returning none. And also if ch is equal to 5, that is, if our choice is 5, then what we need to do? So if our choice is 5, then we can call self.endgame function. So what this does is this ends the game approx over there. So we are going to create this function as well, and if none of these values matches, okay, so none of these matches, then what we can do? Then we can do print please, okay, what we are going to do is please enter a proper value. Okay, so we are going to enter a proper value, and in spite of that we are going to return none. So now what we have to do is, inside the start game method, we need to call the function. That is, we have got the value as integer, now we need to convert into string. So what we can do is we can call self.p_ch is equal to call the function that is defined the same class. We are going to use make of the self keyword, and now we can call it as a player selection. So now according to the the value the player has selected, the value will be displayed. So now what we can do is, so now there are conditions where we can get the none value, that is, we can get a null value. So we need to check for that. So we'll just add one value if self.pch is not none. So if it is not none only, we want the AI to predict, because if the user has not said anything, if you want to check the score, and if the AI chooses something, then there is no point at all. So for that case, if the self.pch is not none, at that time itself we want to generate a random choice. So after generating a random choice, what we can do is we can print using the f string. We are going to print first what the player choose. So we can create a self.pch, and next we are going to print AI choose. Okay, choose. So self.ai ch. Okay, now we can know, and now we'll create a function called self.round checker. So what this function does is this function checks. Okay, now let's see where we have come up to in our readme.md file. So we have created so we have generated this. So we have got the values, and let me just mark it as finished. So we have completed this. We have displayed the different selections that the user can have. Then we have completed the value. We have used the random.choice method to get the value from the. So what we have done is now then we have a method to get the selection. So we have completed that as well. That is, we have to convert the selected integer value into corresponding string values. That is, 1 we are converting into rock, 2 into paper, and 3 into Caesar. So we have converted this as well. So let us mark that as checked. So now we need to create a method to check who is the winner in the current round. So what we'll do is we'll compare both the values, that is from the user and the AI, and we'll match it. And if they are equal, then it means that they have it is a tie. And in the same way, we'll check who has won and who has lost. So now what we'll do is we'll create firstly we'll create a method to display the points whenever required. So now let's create this. Yeah, so for this what I'm going to do is yeah, after this I'm going to define a new function, and that function name we'll keep it as checkpoints. So we have named it checkpoints, right? So we'll name it checkpoints. So what we're going to do is we are just going to print two statements. So f, that is the player points, we want the player points. So that is self dot p points. So just this much you need to do. Print in the f string we are going to have AI points. So self dot AI points. So whenever we call this function, the values will be printed. So now if we see, we have completed this as well. So we just mark this completed. So we have marked our method as completed. So now we now let's create a method to check the winner of the current round. So what we do is we define a round. So we define a new function. So and we name it as a round winner. Yeah, okay, round winner. So what this does is, so now first we have to check whether both the values are equal, that is both selections are equal. So if self.aich is equal to self.pch, that is player ch, then what we need to do, if they both are equal, we need to just print a statement, it's a tie. Okay, so now if it is equal, it's a tie. So now we need to make a nested if condition and check for all the conditions that are possible. So now we have a if block. So now let's say the AI has chosen rock, we'll go in the auto itself. So if AI has chosen rock, then since AI has chosen, we have already created this function, that is we are already checking for equal. So the player, if the player selects rock as well, the print, that is it's a tie, will be printed. So now we don't want rock. So the other two options for the player is you can have a paper, or you can choose to have a rock. sorry, you can choose to have a Caesar. So now let's check if self dot player choice is equal to paper. So for the paper and rock, the paper wins. So what we can do is we can have a print statement that says player won 1 point. Okay, so we'll say as in the same. So you can see if they are same, declare it as tie. If the player wins, declare the player won the point and increment the player's point by 1. If AI wins, declare the AI point or AI won a point and increment AI point by 1. We are going to do the same thing. So in this, player won the point, so we are going to do self dot so it's p points, I guess. Yeah, it's p points plus equal to 1. So this is a short form of player points. Self dot p points is equal to self dot p points plus 1. So this is a shorthand notation, plus equal to. So now if that's not the case, the second case is that that the player can choose Caesar. So in that case, else elif self dot pch is equal to Caesar. So if the player chooses Caesar, then vice versa, the AI will win a point. So AI won 1 point. Okay, so and here it will be self dot AI points plus equal to 1. So in the same way, the AI either can choose the paper instead of the rock. So at that time, so now the user has the option of choosing either the rock or the Caesar. So if self dot player, that if the player chooses to have rock, okay, he likes to use rock. So what we can do is at that time, over the paper, rock wins, right? So yeah, if the rock wins, so we are just going to print AI won 1 point. Okay, yeah, AI won 1 point and self dot AI points, it's AI points plus equal to 1. And if the other option that the player can choose is Caesar. Yeah, cool. So if he chooses Caesar, I can tear the paper around, and so the player wins a point. So we'll just add player. Oh my god, it's player won 1 point, right? So and we need to increment the player value. So self dot player, okay, self dot p points plus equal to 1. So now the last thing, that is if the AI chooses to have Caesar. So we have rock and paper. So now we check the same condition the same way. Else, what we are going to do is we are going to check for the player choice. If it is rock, then the player wins, right? So what we are going to do is print player won 1 point, and we are going to do self dot p underscore points plus equal to 1. That is, we are incrementing the player point 1 by 1, or else we are going to say ch is equal to if it's not rock, then you can have a paper. So now we can have the print statement. So AI won 1 point. So self dot AI point, okay, AI points plus equal to 1. So we have done with the setting up of the round winner. So what we need to do is after selection of each thing, we are calling the round checker. So now we'll name it as round winner. So we are calling the round winner. So if each time, if the value is not none, that is, if you are not selecting 4, if you're selecting either from 1 to 3, this function will be executed because the p.ch value will not be none. Else if you select 4 or 5, so checkpoints will be called, and since this returns none, these steps will be skipped and the loop goes back to the start, so you will get the same thing again. So now what we can do is, so uh, now over here, if you just put any value else, it returns none, so nothing happens and the loop will be returned again. So now we have created a round winner over here. So now what happens, so now let's guess that the player has won the match. So now the player has a point equal to the max point, so the loop tests the conditions. So over here this condition fails, hence the loop stops. So whenever the loop stops, we need to decide a winner. So for that we are going to call a function, or we are going to define a new method, and that method will be called as Endgame. So now we need to define the Endgame function. So now what we have completed over here is, we have created this method, we have compared the values, and then if they are same, we have declared it. We have completed this as well, that is a check, and if AI wins, we have declared that AI wins. So now it's time to create a method to end the game. So what we are doing is, if any of the scores are equal to the max scores, trigger the end game method. So if any of the player or the AI score is equal to the max score, we are going to trigger this, and we are going to check whose score is greater. If they are equal, they may be equal, because we can stop the game at any time using by pressing 5. So for that we are going to check at that time, if they have the values equal, then we will declare them as a tie, or else appropriate person will be declared as a winner. So now what we can do is, after the checkpoints, we create a new function, so method, so we'll name it as endgame. So what we are going to do is, in the endgame we are going to print some values. Okay, so cool, so we are going to print game results. We want to get the results from the game, and let me add a line break over here, so it will be good, and I guess over here as well, so it will be easy for us to play the game. So now we have done this. So now what we can do, sorry, over here, right? So now what we can do is, we need to first let's print the player points. So in order to print the player points, we can just call the function instead of writing it again. So we'll name it as self.checkpoints. Okay, cool. So now if you want the source code of this file, then this will be linked in the GitHub, you can get it from there. So now let's create, so if self.ai points is equal to self.player points. Okay, so if they are equal, then we can print it's a tie. Cool. Elif self dot p point is greater than is greater than self dot AI points, then we can print player won the match. Cool. So else we can just directly declare that AI won the match. Cool. So we have done this. So now we have created the entire function. So now we have even completed the endgame function as well. So we have completed all the methods. So let's mark everything as completed. So this provides us as a notes as well, and we can even make note of what we have completed in our application and whatever not. So now entire class has been completed, so we can close it as well. So now everything is completed. So now it's time to play the game. So before playing, we have defined everything, but we have not called the start game method anywhere. So now if I just run this, so let me run from here, run. So we'll select the main function. So you can see the process finished with exit code 0. That is, there is no error, but still our game is not working. That's because we have not created an instance of a game, and we have not called the start game method. So what we can do is, over here quickly we'll create a method, that is we'll create an object for the RPS game. So we have created a method for the RPS game. So now using this game object we can start the game. So now game dot start game. So now guys, let's try and play our game that we have created. So now we have successfully created a RPS game that you can play using your terminal. So now it's time to run the program. So you can see we are going to get the rock paper scissors, check score, and 5 quit. So now here we are going to get, please enter any one of the options. So now if I just press 5, so it's not exiting, right? So what we have to do is, after the end game, so the problem was, we just stop this, so we are not exiting the game. So what we can do is we can do a quit method, quit of 0 or just quit. So now if we run this, and now if I just press the 5 button, so you can see the game results with the player point 0, AI point 0, and it's a tie. That's because both the values are equal. So now let's run the game once again. So now it's time for me to press 4 because I want to check the score. So now we can see the player points are 0 and AI points are 0 at initial. So we have got the rock, paper, and scissors. So now I'm going to choose as rock. So there has been some error. So let's try to debug what happened. So there has been some error in the random.choice method. So let's see. So we are calling self.ai points. We had to call the self.ai options. So we need to call the AI options. Cool. So now let's run this. So now I'm going to select the first option because I want to have a rock. So now the player chooses rock and even the AI chooses rock. So it's a tie. So there's no point for each of us. So now it's time. Okay, let me just press any other value which is not present. So let me just add 6. So you get, please enter a proper value, and you're with the loop again, so that your game never crashes. So now let me add some values. Let's see who wins. So again it's a tie. So yeah, you can see the player won right now. So if I just press the 4 right now, that is to check the score, you can see that the player points is 1 and the AI points is 0. So your game is working absolutely fine. So now if I want to quit, because I know I'm leading, so AI don't have any point right now, and I am leading with 1 point. So if I press 5 at right now, then the player will be declared as the winner of the match because the player score is greater than the AI score. So guys, if you like this video, then don't forget to click on the like button and also comment your views on how it was. And in the next video I'm going to teach you the same method that we are going to create using the PYGAME. So we are going to have some images, we are going to have the GUI, that's the graphical user interface with buttons and other things. So if you're interested in learning, then subscribe to this channel and also click on the bell button to receive the notifications of all the new videos from this channel. Thank you for watching.